Hi 10th graders, welcome to your second video about science fiction and your very first video about Afrofuturism. Today your learning objective is that you will be able to define the genre of Afrofuturism and identify several examples of this genre. So as a refresher, remember at the end of our last video we were talking about the lack of diversity and representation in science fiction. Remember, we were talking about how the genre of science fiction has mostly been written by white men and has included mostly characters that were also white men. So in this video today, we are actually going to talk about people that have fought back against this and have tried to increase the diversity in the genre of science fiction to tell stories about the future that aren't just about white people. In order to talk about this, we need to start with the very famous, important author, Octavia Butler. So Octavia Butler was a very famous Black science fiction author, and she's sometimes called the mother of Afrofuturism. I wanted to share a couple quotes with you about how Octavia Butler got into science fiction. And she said, "Why aren't there more Black science fiction writers? There aren't because there aren't. What we don't see, we assume can't be. What a destructive assumption." So what she means here is that when Octavia Butler was a young person, she really didn't see Black authors writing science fiction. There wasn't that representation of Black people in this genre. And so she was really a pioneer and someone that was groundbreaking because she was one of the first Black authors to write science fiction and imagine stories about the future that included Black characters and weren't just about white people. Octavia Butler says she was really attracted to the genre of science fiction because it was so wide open. She was able to do anything. She was able to imagine all of these worlds and human experiences that could potentially happen in the future. And that was why she thought science fiction was an amazing genre. And she's written a bunch of short stories and books that have become very well known. The ones that I have read by her are amazing, and I would encourage you to check out her work as well. So what is Afrofuturism? It is also called African futurism, and it's a subgenre of science fiction that draws specifically on African culture. So subgenre, that just means that Afrofuturism is part of science fiction, but it's its own separate category because it draws specifically on African culture. Afrofuturism still has these futuristic elements of sci-fi, so think like mind control, space travel, time travel, aliens, robots, those things that we talked about in the last video. But it uses Black characters and Black histories to imagine a future that is written by and for Black people. So Octavia Butler was one of the first people to do this, and now it has become a huge genre with many types of stories. One of the most famous examples that you probably have all heard of and a lot of you have seen is this movie Black Panther. So if you've seen it, you know that this depicts the technologically advanced society of Wakanda. It's this futuristic African country, and it's an awesome movie that I would encourage you to check out. We are going to watch just a very short clip from this video that talks about some of the advanced technology in the Black Panther movies. So as you watch this clip, I want you to think about what sci-fi elements are you noticing in this world of Wakanda. All right, so I know that was short, and I've linked the rest of this video on Schoology if you want to go back and watch it. But I want you to think about like the fact that we saw that advanced car that she was driving, or the spacecrafts that we saw, or the gloves that she was wearing that shot things out. These are all sci-fi elements that make this movie futuristic, right? So this is an example of Afrofuturism because it has these futuristic sci-fi elements, and also because it centers African characters. This is another example of Afrofuturism. It is a musical called The Wiz. You might have heard of it because Cooper actually performed this musical a couple years ago. And it is an African-American reimagining of the fantasy story, The Wizard of Oz. So it's Afrofuturism because it's this fantastical world, and it includes African-American characters and Black music and culture to tell the story. In our next lesson, we're actually going to read a short story called Spider the Artist, which is an example of Afrofuturism because it's set in Nigeria and includes these futuristic giant spider zombies that are attacking and killing people. It's a really fun, exciting story that kids loved in the past, and I'm excited to read it with you. And now I want you'll see in your notes, there's a spot where you're actually going to go and find your own example of Afrofuturism. So this can just be a quick Google search saying like, what are examples of Afrofuturism in movies or music or art? Find your own example and be able to really explain why it's an example of Afrofuturism. So you're ready to take your mastery check if you feel like you can define the genre and provide several examples of Afrofuturism. I want you to think about how well you understood the lesson. Are you feeling good? Do you have questions that you need to ask your peers or go back and rewatch the video? I've also posted a couple videos on Schoology that are about Afrofuturism more in depth and also give you more information about Octavia Butler. So if you're interested in these things, please go and check that out.